The doer is the part of me that can't stop doing shit. It just cannot fucking stop. Like it will always stay busy even when I'm trying to relax with my kid. It is trying to figure out what is next. Go baby, go baby, go. Like there's something happening and you're missing it and you need to be on, buddy.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Men on Purpose podcast. I'm your host Ian Lobas, and our mission is to elevate, educate, empower, enrich, and evolve men to be on purpose. So check it out. Few things today that I want to talk about before we get to my guest, Demir Bentley. You guys have made us a top 1% podcast in the world, and that is freaking special. That is awesome. That's really awesome. So I have you to thank for that. And so I just want to give you a little gratitude. So check it out. Couple free resources that we have on the website, right? IanLobas.com, mentalpurposepodcast.com. There you're going to find a ton of different stuff. One of those things you're going to find is our free ebook. The free ebook is basically a breakdown of our 1-year coaching program in a little ebook, 4 steps, 4 or 5 different videos, and you can literally take yourself through it. And you get that from the website. And really, the second and the big thing that I want to celebrate there is our Men on Purpose community on Facebook. Not the Men on Purpose podcast community, but the Men on Purpose community. Men on Purpose community is an incredible ecosystem for all things on purpose, including free weekly coaching, webinars, tips, and really one of the most important things that we need as people on purpose is another network of like-minded people who are also looking to do the 5 E's for their lives to be the most powerful, purposeful, fulfilled, authentic, regret-free versions of who they are. Not all masterminds, not all communities are created equal, not all networks are created equal. This one's purpose-built by me, for you, for us to evolve together in. And that's freaking awesome. Lastly, make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you already haven't. Hit up iTunes or Spotify, Men on Purpose Podcast. Hit that subscribe button. And if you could be so kind, leave us a 5-star review. And one last thing, make sure you check out our Frontrunner events. There are live events, personal involvement, deep dive coaching, 3.5-day weekend retreats. They will blow your mind. We've got 4 of them coming up this year. They sell out quick, so make sure you hit up frontrunner.group to check it out. Okay, so here we go. Demir Bentley, I think this guy is a life hack expert, right? Hacking expert. And he calls himself the productivity guy, but we're going to talk about life hacks today, right? That's the most important thing because we hear about life hacks, we hear about these hacks and people doing this and people doing that. Look, this guy's the expert. You are going to learn so much stuff about life hacks today that you're going to have actionable items literally right after we finish the interview. No joke. So let me tell you a little bit about Demir and let's get rolling. So Demir, productivity guy who works successfully with people who have created, he's secretly struggled with productivity and just all around getting organized. And that's who he helps, right? And we talk about myself and his challenges and organization and structure and all those different hacks that we use in our lives to get through basically the ADD brain that does not want us to be corralled. So you got to work with it. Don't fight against it. He's a head coach at Lifehack Method, where he's helped over 50,000 professionals get it together and create more freedom in their lives. His clients have added millions in revenue, and the most important thing is save thousands of hours implementing his coaching. He's personally coached executives from Facebook, Google, Uber, PepsiCo, and his work's been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, tons of other media outlets. Fun fact about Demir is him and his family are full-on digital nomads. That means that they live around the world in different cities in Greece and Singapore and Bali and Hawaii. And right now they live in Medellin, Colombia. And the guy is switched on. The guy is so much fun. We have a blast. We're laughing. We're challenging each other. It is a great episode. You're going to love it. Thank you for listening to this podcast and supporting us. Here you go. This is Demir Bentley. All right, Demir, let's do this thing, man. Let's do it. By you and I have a little bit of a history, and it's a long time ago. We met on like the first podcast that I ever hosted, and when I had the opportunity to bring you back on this Powerhouse podcast, I'm like, let's roll. Let's do this, because you have an expertise in life hacks, and too many people, in my opinion, are misinformed or confused about what life hacking is, and you're here to set them a little bit more straight on that path, if not totally straight on that path, in my opinion. So let's jump, man. Let's jump into it. So define this thing.
I mean, okay, so what's interesting about, like, if you go online and you look up the word life hack, and just do it. Google it and look up the images, and what you'll see is like clever uses for old toilet paper rolls, right? You're going to see like, right. You know, like, oh, you could use your old toilet paper rolls to store things in your freezer, you know, or whatever it is, you know. I don't use that definition of life hacking, right? So what I think is better is something that Buckminster Fuller called ephemeralization. That's a big mouthful. If you want a fancy cocktail party word that you want to throw around at a party, start throwing around the word ephemeralization. And what he defined it as was being able to do more and more with less and less until eventually you can do everything with no inputs. More. I'm going to say it one more time because it's one of those things you really want to wrap your brain around. Yeah. Being able to do more and more with less and less until eventually you can do everything with nothing. Right? And he used that to describe the progression of technology, right? Think about, like, if you wanted to get information from one place to the other in the Middle Ages, you literally had to put tons of books into the back of a cart and roll it, you know, thousands and thousands of miles. So if you think about, like, in the Middle Ages, how you would get information from one place to another, you would literally have to put tons of books inside of the back of a horse-drawn cart and then transport it, you know, from one continent to another over bridges that probably weighed, you know, each bridge probably weighed just like thousands and thousands of tons, right? So this was what had to happen to get information from one place to the other. Today, push a button. Gigabytes of information, whole libraries of information. So this is proof that ephemeralization is possible, and in fact is sort of this inevitable progression. I think about that as being the best definition of life hacking. Because when I ask people what they really want in their life, when they get more productive, when they get more organized, when they think about taking a different approach to their life, what they're really saying is, I want a bigger and bigger life. I want to project myself in a bigger way in my life, in my family, with my health, with my self-knowledge, my spiritual journey, whatever it is. I want that bigger and bigger life, but I want it to take less and less. And eventually, my ideal would be that it all just happens without any effort whatsoever. And so I think...
And then get it.
Exactly. Like, I want it to be self-sustaining. I want it to... Because really what happened from the Middle Ages to now is not magic. It's infrastructure. That's really what happened. It wasn't magic. It was infrastructure. So when I think about, as a productivity coach, when I think about working with somebody, what I really think about is creating the infrastructure in their life so that not just that we get the work done this week, but that the work becomes permanently easier to do each and every week for the future. And if you live that way, if it's almost like bouncing on a trampoline. If every single week you're doing something not just to get the work done, but to make the work permanently easier to do, then then life is getting lighter. Like every single week. It's almost like the trampoline gives you more energy back every time you bounce on it, and you're just bouncing higher and higher and higher. That's what a life of ephemeralization feels like. Gary Keller and Jay Papasan in their fantastic book, The One Thing, really nail this by defining leverage as doing something this week that can make everything next week and in the future easier or unnecessary. What can you do today that makes everything else in the future easier or unnecessary? And that is ephemeralization. That is their definition of the one thing. But I think this is also my definition of life hacking. I would say that somebody has hacked their life when they live the biggest possible life, but when you see them, they're not even breaking a sweat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like what you were describing is that poster in back of you. It says, I want to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah. But everybody wants to be a bodybuilder. So that is Ronnie Coleman, 8-time Mr. Olympia, right? Won more Mr. Olympias than Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Yep. And he says in one of the funniest YouTube videos ever, if you want to see a hilarious video, the context of that video is everything, because he lifts probably like enough weight to be like a small, like mid-sized caravan. I mean, the guy like is lifting and screaming. His face is like, veins bulging, screaming in agony, lifting this heavy weight. And then he throws it down and he looks right at the camera and says, everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but don't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight. And the first time I heard it.
So true for life, though.
I just thought, this guy just explained life.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. And you explained it dead on, as you would, because you're an expert at it. Like, let's talk about systems and how systems and procedures come in there, because systems are something that build upon each other. And I in my coaching business, I teach a lot about building businesses that are sustainable. And you mentioned that word earlier, is sustainability. Most people build a business which really is just a mask for creating another job for themselves. And they don't have sustainability. They don't work with systems and processes. I was one of those people in the real estate world when I was selling real estate that I just went out and sold real estate. I generated leads and I sold real estate, and I rode that roller coaster up and down all year long. I just did it at a really high level. So it looked good, but I was miserable. Yeah. I started building systems and really understanding systems, honestly, after reading The One Thing. Like, what would be book. Unnecessary next week for me to do? How do I not go in and have to spin this damn plate every Monday morning and every first of the month? How do I get this thing so it's sustainable?
That's not humane. When I say humane, I don't mean fair. What I mean is, like, humane in the sense that it's human, right? A human is going to have good weeks and bad weeks. And even on good weeks, a human could have a good week where they're fully present, ready to jam, but life throws them curveballs, right? So the idea that you're going to plan for being super consistent is already a losing idea, because super consistency is not going to happen for two important reasons. One, you're not going to be great all the time. And two, even when you're great, life is going to throw you these landmines. You're just going to step on a landmine, it's going to blow up, and you're going to spend the whole week just addressing that, right? So it's not a humane way of living. I think a much like more livable, humane way of living is to create a system that is like what I call your coffee maker. Your coffee maker doesn't only work on the days when you really work it. It works every single week, every day, every week. Right. You push the button, it makes the coffee, right? I mean, you could be crying, you could be tired, right? All you have to do is push the button and the coffee maker works. Your coffee maker is consistent and it supports you in that sense, right? Because you don't have to be on or not on. All you have to do is like trudge your way to the coffee maker and push the button and it will work. And you want systems that have that kind of reliability to them. And if I can deepen this 1 second, I'll say that actually my funny hypothesis here is that people who love making systems, is this a cursing or a non-cursing podcast? Okay.
Whatever you want.
If people who love making systems are the fucking worst at making systems, they overcomplicate it. They build system upon system upon system. It's totally nerded out. Nobody wants to work with or for that person because they are literally plugged directly into Basic with wires coming out of them, and nobody wants to be part of it. And eventually, they even tire of it. Even they go, "Oh my god, this is absurd." I would actually posit to your listeners now that if you are lazy, you could actually be the best person to create systems because of what I call advanced laziness. And listen to this and tell me if this isn't you to a T. I'm the kind of person who will spend 30 hours trying to figure something out so that I'd never have to do it every single day, right? Because I know I'm bad with consistency. I will spend a Herculean amount of effort to get something off my plate because I know I can't do it every single day. Let me ask if that rings any bells for you.
Oh, 100%, man. My partner right? Aaron in our live event business, Frontrunner, he'll always say to me, he's like, "Dude, I love the fact that you built this last week and it took 20 hours and you rebuilt it this weekend because you worked through it and you realized that there's a problem with it. So you rebuilt the whole thing. I love that. Make sure you send it to me so that I can take your 30 steps and make it 3.
Yeah.
3 really freaking good steps."
Yeah.
Totally.
And what I think is great about being the kind of person who doesn't like systems is you tend to create systems that other people will like to work with. Because if your standard is, I'm lazy, I don't like systems, and I want it to be as simple and as easy as possible, then if that's your standard, you will probably create systems that other people really dig and like working with because they'll be really gentle to work with.
That's right. Do you know Pat Hyben?
No, and I when people say people's names and I don't know it, I feel like terrible because I'm sure he's like
no, it's fine.
the dude, right?
I don't think you. I don't know if you would know him. He wrote a book called 6 Steps to 7 Figures in Real Estate, and he's one of my great mentors. Still is. He helped me on my podcast journey with his podcast, Real Estate Rockstars, that he sold. He used to tell me all the time, and he would just do this in passing, like in a very aggressive tone, but I took it seriously. He'd go, "Hey, stop working so fucking hard. Be really, really lazy and really intelligent." And he built this quadrant that showed like lazy and unintelligent in the first quadrant, kind of like the cash flow quadrant. But the first quadrant was lazy and dumb. Then the fourth quadrant was lazy and really intelligent.
Yes.
And he said the people that are really lazy but really intelligent will figure out a way to get shit done real fast, so they don't have to work that hard. And that I
this is what
into.
I agree with him totally, and my different name for the same exact thing is just what I call advanced laziness. Advanced laziness is where you harness your laziness and use it and use it to create
Embrace
systems because you know that you'll do anything to avoid the work. So great, use that.
Totally. You know what's funny? You talked about the coffee maker. I want to go back to that for a second. Something I learned in a training course one day, a coach's training course, where we were talking about personal performance and the way that machinery works versus humans, because we have language that interrupts our performance, and we have these stories and these things inside. And he was talking about hacks to get through all the shit in your brain and actually get out to a place where you can just be in performance and not thinking about what other people are going to think about your performance out here, and I'm too lazy and I'm a little tired and I'm depressed. And he said, look, when you get into a car and you push the gas pedal, what happens? And obviously it goes faster. You push the brake, and obviously it slows down. It's that cut and dry. It's what happens when this happens. It's the action reaction. But he said, what's funny is half of you who are late today blame traffic. They blame that you woke up late because you're tired, because you're depressed, because you're sad, you didn't eat, you're hungry, whatever. No car gives a shit. If you're hungry, sad, tired, happy, elated, whatever, if you push the gas pedal, no matter what you're feeling, this happens. Or that happens. That's it. And I love that definition because it explains how complicated humans make themselves by those stories and that language pattern that they keep inside. But there are
and the only thing I would say to that is that I think there's two paradigms of personal development. There's what I call like the golden god paradigm, and then there's the Alcoholics Anonymous paradigm, right? And by the way, if you don't count Alcoholics Anonymous as personal development, you haven't been paying attention. Probably in terms of complete transformations, right? Like tell me of a paradigm or a system or whatever that could take somebody from like a drunk sitting underneath a freeway to like being a member of society again, having businesses and being the deacon of the church, right? I mean, in terms of just raw before and after transformations, we should be looking at Alcoholics Anonymous and be like, those guys are at the top of the pile, right? God bless Tony Robbins and them all, but like AA for me is at the top, right? So when I think about like the paradigm of when I contrast these two, the golden god paradigm is like, oh, you're perfect, Ian. You're perfect. You just got to learn to trust yourself, dude. Just listen to yourself. Like you will be. There's a way that you can operate perfectly and flawlessly in this world if you just learn to listen to this perfect internal voice. And in AA, over on the other side, they're like, oh no, your voice is all fucked up. You're like all of your intuitions are all fucked up and almost hopelessly so, to the point where you really can't even trust yourself, and you need to create you need a completely new paradigm, a completely new logic, you need to like, because your intuitions can tell you to go drink and use, right? Your intuition is just like gonna kill you. So that's the other side of the paradigm, right? Like, your intuition is so terribly fucked up that it will kill you, right? And I'm more on that side, right? And so I only say that to say that like, I want to build systems for people, assuming they're not going to get any better and actually could see significant regressions in their life. Like I want to create low nets, low bars, so that they can perform and continue to be a dad and a friend and a deacon of the church or whatever. Assuming that not only are they not going to get better, but it's potential at some point in the world in the future they could get much, much worse, right? And so that's just my approach.
Isn't that how most people operate, though? I mean, just think about the general population of society. Don't they operate like that? They don't. They want simple, man. They want
I make no bones about it, man. I'm a very flawed individual.
Me too. But there's a mix in there, what you were saying, that has the surrender or letting go piece in it, but that's calculated surrender. It's not like programmed. It's not like, it's intentional surrender, like back off of this, gas pedal down on that. It's not like, I'm just going to let everything go and just pretend like everything's going to be fine. And no matter what I do, somebody out there is going to take care of it, whether it's a person or God or the universe or whatever. That's not surrender. Surrender is understanding the path and understanding the parts that you have a responsibility on and that parts that the energy out there has a responsibility on. Because
totally,
if you want to go deep,
and I think
predetermined path.
I think you're on it. Bringing this back to systems, all I would say is you're going to have days, weeks, and months when you feel like chopping wood with your bare hands, right? You're going to feel like I got this, baby. Yeah, great. Yeah. During that energy, you should create things that will sustain you for the times and the days when the tide pulls out, because there's going to be times when the tide pulls out and you fall back into depression or laziness, and hopefully if you straight line it, even through the up and down, from the beginning of your life to then, hopefully you have seen an improvement, like a progression, but that doesn't mean that there's not, that you can predict that in a month you're going to feel great. So for me, I would just say with my clients to say, hey, while we're feeling good, while we've got intention and energy, let's make things let's build infrastructure, not just do work. Let me just pause and just say that again. Build infrastructure, don't just do work, right? Let me give a classic example, right? Just so we can make this very real. I'm a coach, so I answer the same questions over and over and over and over again, to the point where I get to great questions that I'm just like, I don't want to answer this question ever again. If I see this question again, I'm just going to jump out of a building, because I've been coaching for so long on this that so a great way to turn something from just work into infrastructure is to say, you know what? I'm going to answer this question today as good as I've ever answered it before in my entire life. Today's answer is going to be the answer. I'm going to save it as an email template, and when I get those messages, and when I get a question like this again in the future, I am going to go back and grab this email template and drop it in here, right? I just took work that I'd have to do again and again, and even if I answered it perfectly today, I got to answer it again tomorrow, and I turned it into infrastructure, right? I did the email, but I did it in such a way, maybe it took me a little bit longer, but I did it in such a way as it became infrastructure for me.
Totally. How does that not make sense, dude? How does that not make sense?
But I mean, there was a time in my life where I didn't get that. Like, I'll admit it.
Me too. I mean, in my beginning of my coaching journey, I was trying to dial in my style, my method, pulling from all the things that we've learned, and trying to create my own little program, my own little structure. And it started with, all right, look for the patterns. Like somebody told me, just look for the patterns. Every human has the same shit wrong with them. It just happened in a different way. That's it. Like it could be this really traumatic event for this guy, and it was like their mom took a toy from them and gave it to their brother, and still trauma registered the same in the brain. Yeah. But the story became much different. And so someone's going to ask you about not being good enough, or feeling like an imposter, or not being smart enough, or not feeling worthy, whatever. That's a pattern. If you have the patterns out, then all you have to do is just figure out the best way to answer, just like you said, and write that out. But I think it takes time on that journey to actually figure out those type of systems and procedures.
I think about it as just a completely different way. I think that like the average human being, like 99.9% of people will approach their day or their week or their life as here's everything I have to do. Where do I start? Right? And it's very, very natural, right? Like it's very natural to just like look at the mountain of things in your to-do list or coming at you and just say, okay, God, where do I start? Right? And it's very unnatural to say, okay, I'm going to put aside the things that feel like I need to do them right now, and I'm actually going to look through a completely different lens and say, how do I make everything else easier or necessary this week? How do I build infrastructure this week? How do I ephemeralize my life just a little bit more this week? How do I make my life 1% easier to live this week? I'll give you another. I love examples because I think sometimes when we talk in generalities, like, so I had a baby girl about 17 months ago, right? My wife is very precise. She's like, you said 18, it was 17. So I had a baby girl 17 months ago, and my deal with my wife is I get up in the mornings, right? And so I get up in the mornings, I grab the baby, do all the baby stuff, and I've got this baby in one arm. And I was going to my kitchen. We live in Colombia, so we have a cook down here. So if I say we have a cook, please don't think that I'm like French royalty or anything. We just live in Colombia, right? So my cook has put all of the ingredients for making coffee on practically the four corners of the kitchen. And so I'm with a baby in one arm. I'm trying to make coffee with one arm. I probably took 10,000 steps in that kitchen just to get one cup of coffee. And I finally was just like, dude, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I literally gave the baby to my wife when she woke up, and I went back in the kitchen and I consolidated everything into one kitchen station that was right next to the fridge, so that every single day with one hand, I can get in and out of the kitchen in 10 minutes with a cup of coffee, right? Now, it was taking me 20 minutes. So that's 10 minutes every single day that I'm saving. You better believe I'm having coffee every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So I'm saving 10 minutes, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, now going on 2 years, right? A lot of people won't add that time up and count it, but I count that. I'm like, that was crucial.
How much is it?
I mean, gosh, you got to do the math, but it's like two. I think I calculated it's 2 work weeks.
3,600 hours.
Yeah,
3,600 hours in one freaking year,
dude. But from a change of just you know what?
Oh, sorry, minutes.
Yeah, 3,600 minutes. Yeah. And I think I could be wrong here, but I calculated that as being 2 work weeks, enough. If those were waking minutes, that's enough waking minutes to basically give you back 2 working weeks, right? And so I think people tend to look for grandiose examples of creating infrastructure in their life, right? They're looking for the big stuff. Dude, I'm gonna erase my business and start from a tabula rasa and rebuild it. And it's dude, you're not gonna live through that. You're gonna die on the right. You got to look for the small stuff. Yeah, you're gonna die in the field. It's so true.
Yeah, you really will. You will. Can't harvest corn by yourself. You just can't. You need a team. You can't get the ears off and go get the tractor and then go get the truck and then deliver it. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Well, and I always tell people, they say, Demir, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, a lot of people say, Demir, where should I start? And I always say, just if you kept a notepad next to your computer and just, instead of calling that notepad systems, if you just rent annoyed, if you put at the top of that notebook, annoyed, right? And just as things were happening and annoying the hell out of you, annoyed that I'm processing 300 emails, annoyed that I missed that sales email and lost that money, annoyed that people are interrupting you. If you just wrote down lists of things that were frustrating you, you'd realize that what's happening there is there's a system that is either not well designed or not intentionally designed at all, right? And so often your annoyances, your frustrations are actually the cue for where you should start thinking about working on systems. Okay, so you've answered this email 300 times and you're sick of answering it? Great. Start there. Make that, the next time you answer that email, write an email template. You have now created a micro system that is going to save you, over the course of the next 2 years, it's going to probably save you, 300 minutes minimum in answering this email, right? And so I think a lot of people are looking for that. No, I need to start from the 5,000 foot view and redesign my whole business. And I'm a big advocate of start with what's going wrong today, right? And look for things that you can fix in 5 minutes, right? Because if you play that game, getting 1% better every single day, there's a great James Clear. If you want to check this out, 1% better James Clear. If you Google that, you'll come up with a great James Clear blog post where he talks about he actually does the math of getting 1% better every single day and where that takes you by the end of the year.
It's exponential. It's interesting. I use the farmer's field mentality, the cornfield mentality, or visual, because you're going to die in the field. You cannot step 5,000 feet over the field like you're talking about. You just can't.
Yeah.
Right away. You got to figure out how the system works to get the corn planted and grown and watered and fed and then harvested. You got to do that from the ground.
Yeah.
But then eventually you'll get up to that place where you're in a little plane and you're flying over your crops, just checking out your 100,000 acres instead of your 1 acre because your crews are working that shit. But it all comes from you saying, okay, if I dig it like this and plant it like this, let me write that down. Then when I do it like this and do it like this, let me write that down, because I've done it for the last 50 years and I watched my dad do it for 50 years and I want to get the hell out of this fucking field.
Yep.
That's what you do, one little step at a time. It's so interesting that a lot of people can't get that. But also remember our society. It's instantaneous. It's grandiose. It's Instagram shit on yachts and mansions and right. Like that's the thing.
I mean, I don't even
though you made an explanation.
I don't blame people at all. I mean, the funny thing is I was not born organized. Like I'm not that guy who was born like organizing a sock drawer. Like I'm one of those guys who had a nearly religious conversion from I was the hustler guy, right? I lived in New York. Like, if anybody knows my story, the short version is basically I was diagnosed by my doctors in New York with Salaryman sudden death syndrome. I was working like 80, 90 hours a week in New York City. My body stopped working. My digestive system wasn't working. My doctors were like, what is this? It's not Crohn's. It's not ulcerative colitis, but it's just like weird. We haven't seen it. Like, this is serious, right? Like I had 3 surgeries and finally one of my doctors was smart enough to be like, dude, how much are you working per week? And living in New York and living that New York lifestyle, I proudly announced, I'm like, dude, I work like 90 hours a week. Like I bragged about it. I was like, yeah, man, I work like 90 hours a week, baby. Like I was that guy who like wore the busy badge all day, every day, worked 90 hours a week to frankly get 40 hours worth of real work done. Like staying nights and weekends thinking I was a badass, but all my coworkers were feeling sorry for me. Like, why can't that guy get his work done? Like, but I was in my own mind, I was thinking, I'm the guy, man. I'm the Gary Vaynerchuk, man. I'm the hustler. I get to work before anybody else. I leave after. The reason I don't blame people is because I fully invested in that paradigm. And, you know, and only after I'd completely bankrupted that and was like, my doctor was literally like, dude, you could die if not like be carrying a colostomy bag for the rest of your life. You need to make a change. Like, so I was forced to change my paradigm. So I'm very gentle and I think understanding when people are not approaching it from that way, because like I would still be out there right now today living that life if I hadn't
you might be dead,
been slapped across the face, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing happened to me, except I have Crohn's. I've had it for a long time, but I was stuck in that mentality. And let's talk about that for a second. That hustle, need to work. Because I was working for my dad's business. I was working between 80 and 100 hours a week. I was living at the warehouse most nights. Even when I met my wife, I had no home. I literally lived at the warehouse because I was so scared. Because there's depth there, right? It's not just you're just a hustler. That's stupid. Like. There's depth there. I was so scared that I'd be nobody without the money and the success and the power and all the shit that I had gotten that I couldn't understand how to stop. And my health was declining and my relationships were failing and I hated myself, but I couldn't get off the wheel. I love that Salaryman sudden death syndrome. I've never heard it put like that.
Look it up, man. It's a real thing. That's where you hear people in Korea and Japan like just dying at their desk. You know, young, healthy people. Man, I could not agree with you more. I mean, I'll just give you my version of that. My version of that was that I learned to perform for love, right? And my parents aren't bad people. They're great people. They thought they were doing something really great to tell me to hold back. They were holding back a little love if I got the B because they knew I could get the A, right? But what I received from that was I'm not worthy of love if I don't perform. Right, I've got to, but you know, of course, like me being a crazy idiot, like I took that to like the nth degree, a level that my parents never would have intended. Right, so it's not on them. Right, it's just getting to know myself and realizing what programming went wrong in my brain is I just latched on to that message, right, and I just was like, great, I made that whole message my life. Like I'm only worthy of my girlfriend because of the job that I have. I'm only worthy as a person because of the role that I'm playing. And even at work, I can only compare to other people because I work as much or more than them. Like, so I just turned the volume way up on that simple message. And it just goes to show, like, even like a very innocuous message could be latched on by a human being and then like turned up to 12 and people are like, dude, I'm not like that, dude. Like, relax, bro.
Isn't that trauma, man? Like, that's the trauma we were talking about earlier. Same thing happened to me. I was on teaching a group of about 50 guys right before this, and I said, you know, for me it was I was watching Jeopardy one day. I was 10 or 11 in the kitchen. My mom was cooking dinner, and I think she remembers this. And I answered 3 questions in a row. Yeah. And my mom turned around, and it's not that my mom was very loving, over loving, helicopter-y.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But at that moment, She turned around and I got full out attention. She stopped cooking dinner. She turned the stove off and sat down with me and said, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. How do you know all this? You're so smart." And in that moment, I said, in order to get love, I've got to be the smartest person in the room. No shit.
Yeah.
And that lasted with me for a very long time. So I knew that the smartest person in the room was also the best hustler, which made the most money. So now if I make the most money and I'm the smartest person in the room, shower me with love. Man. Shower me with love. But also
just add to that we have these messages that come to us through culture, like the Protestant work ethic. Like, you're a better person if you work harder than the next guy, right? My dad never said that to me. Right, never. But I received it. I received it through just like it's in the water. It's like fluoride, it's there, right? We get these messages, in the water. That's one of the coolest things I like about my wife is she didn't get a lot of these memos because she was homeschooled. So a lot of the things that annoy me about other, not just women, but people, about other people in general, she's never got these messages because she was homeschooled, and she was able to sort of like make her own decisions about how the world worked in those formative years. And so not to make that about homeschooling, but just to say that like we receive these messages, like we receive them either from our parents or whatever, and then we amplify them in weird, sort of, counterintuitive ways. Yeah.
I want to talk to you something about the mentality while we're on this. And I still remember, we're going to talk about the dad thing in a second. I want to talk to you and ask you a question about, it's a topic that comes up every coaching call. It's a topic that comes up on every stage I'm on or any webinar or event that I do. And that's in the being versus doing analogy or example or exercise or whatever you want. And our culture is so geared, you're talking about Gary Vee and nothing against Gary Vee, but that hustle porn mentality, it doesn't work for everybody, and it'll burn people, and it'll create that Salaryman sudden death syndrome. And if it's not in actual death, it's in death of the way you treat yourself, the way you show up for your family, the way you show up for your colleagues and coworkers and your life in general. Like, that is a death. This is a slow death, a much slower death than a coronary at your desk. What's your take on that in terms of how someone can step out of all that rat wheel doing busy work and actually start to understand and know themselves, like hacks for that?
Yeah, I mean, I when I think about hacks, I just think about I love this idea of the long cut versus the shortcut. Sometimes we're like looking for shortcuts. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I've had so many times in my life where I look back after 5 years of taking shortcuts and been like, dude, none of those shortcuts worked. And I actually would have gone way sooner and shorter if I just done it right the first time. So I think the hack here is to just stop looking for shortcuts and do the work. Although I will say, for anybody who wants to get curious about their inner world, I think there's a book that I just love called Self-Therapy by Jay Early. Self-Therapy by Jay Early. For anybody who wants to be better, be more coachable, and get more from your coaching relationships. If you ever, leverage a personal development guru or even a therapist or in any kind of self-help group, you'll get so much more. It just puts an acceleration on all your personal development. This book really is IFS, internal family systems, boiled down into something that you can use on yourself. A lot of people will tell me like, oh, Demir, but they look at self-development or self-knowledge as this like multi-year, climbing Mount Everest journey. And I always just say, like, I think when one good 90-minute walk, you can learn a lot about yourself with the right tools. Mm-hmm. And so I do these like personal development walks where, I think listening to that book, the audio version of that book, and taking a 90-minute walk, like a person can peel a whole freaking layer off of what's going on inside of them. Maybe not all the layers, but they can get a whole layer off in a good, solid, focused 90-minute walk of like, okay, like I'm looking for there's a part of me that's doing this thing. What is that part needing? Where's that part reacting to? So my take on personal development is, man, you'd be like, this is not 11 or even 100 sessions with a therapist. To me, the right tools and a good 90-minute walk, and you'd be stunned at what you can figure out about yourself.
Love that. But that goes back to the James Clear thing you were talking about. 1% over time. It's like 1 degree off course over time is a lot. And it's
Yeah.
exponential. It's not like 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. It's like 1 + 2, 2 + 2, 4 + 4. It really grows like that.
I mean, I just want to be clear. I did this today, Ian. Like, so today,
Yeah.
I figured something out about myself. So today I figured out that there's a part of me that likes to be called the doer. I wouldn't call it the doer, but it likes to be called the doer. The doer is the part of me that can't stop doing shit. It just cannot fucking stop. Like it will always stay busy, even when I'm trying to relax with my kid. It is trying to figure out what is next. Go baby, go baby, go. Like there's something happening and you're missing it and you need to be on, buddy. And I realized like when I really got into the doer, started communicating with the doer, I realized what it's trying to protect me is from a childhood where where a lot of things went wrong. Right? A lot of things, and even when things started to seem like they were finally going right, then they went wrong again, right? So I had a very persistent sense that that I was behind the ball, and that things were happening to me, that I wasn't in control, that things were that my environment was happening to me, I wasn't happening to my environment. And so imagine like a kid like that is going to create a compensatory part of them that's like, great, okay, I'm going to get ahead of things. I want to be ahead of the ball. I want to see a mile down the road, right? And so my doer, you could look at it two different ways. You could see why do I have this part of me that won't let me relax, that won't let me be present with my daughter and like just enjoy having a cup of coffee in the morning. Why do I always need to feel like I need to do something? Or you could get intimate with that part and be like, okay, what is the positive intention that part has for me? What does it think at least that it's doing for me? Well, and let's give it some credit. What does it actually do for me, right? And I figured that out about myself today on a 90-minute walk, right? It's just coincidence that we're talking today. So I just want to be clear that it's like, you know, when people, I think putting it up on a pedestal and saying I need to do 100 sessions with a therapist to figure anything out about me, it's both lazy, but it's also dangerously incorrect because it's a way of saying, it's a way of putting it away from yourself and saying, oh, well, then if I can't afford the time or I can't afford the money to do that, then I guess I can't do personal development. Bullshit.
Yeah. Is that a shirk of responsibility? I mean, a total shirking of responsibility? It's just because we all know people that go into personal development in air quotes to work on themselves for a lifetime so that they can tell people, well, I went to UPW. I've been to UPW 15 times. And I look at people like at a party and they're like, oh, you've been to UPW? I'm like, they'll say like, what do you do? And I go, well, I'm a coach. What kind of coach? Well, personal performance development, things like that. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I've been to UPW 15 times. I'm like, awesome. What did it do for you? And they'll go, I learned a lot from it. I'm like, what wonderful. What challenges in your life did you solve from it? 15 freaking times. That's like it's 45 hours in 40-degree weather inside, torture. What did you do? I love UPW. I've crewed it many times, and they can't tell you, but they are proud as shit to tell you that they've been 15 times. But they went to go, they didn't go to learn or to fix something or to try something or to evolve something or build something inside them. It's just, it blows my mind.
I can't judge somebody spending their money on whatever entertains them, but for people who have limited time, limited money, here's my fault. Here's my crack. When I have a client who tells me I don't know where to start, and they come in with a perception that it is going to take hundreds of hours, I have no judgment around them. But once I tell you, read this book and take a 90-minute walk, and every single time you read another chapter of this book and take a 90-minute walk, you will peel a significant layer off. If you don't do it then, I judge you. Right? So I'm not judging you for thinking it takes too long because that's a common misconception. I'm not judging you for not knowing which book to read. That's a really difficult thing to figure out. But once somebody, when you complain about something and somebody gives you the tool and proves to you that it doesn't take that long and you still don't do it, now I know for sure that you're full of shit. Right? Now I know for sure that you don't really want it because I just told you, like, and what does the book cost? Even if you're going to buy the audiobook, what does it cost? Like $24? I mean, it's like
$15, $20. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one of the big takeaways from today is that you don't have to get into this grandiose thing and commit a year of your life and hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours. You literally can just take a walk with a book. If you're paying attention and you're present, you can't be like on your phone on Facebook listening to the book while you're walking because your brain's just not picking shit up. You're more focused on whatever other people are doing. But if you're taking that walk and you're focusing on this book and walking, then that is an exercise in itself. Not just the audio, but the fact that you're giving yourself that time, that you're giving yourself that care and love, that you're committing to something in your own growth and development. There's a lot of layers there. And that's why it'll lift layers off.
And I got to give a shout out to my boy Cal Newport for the sort of what I call the base of that idea. Like Cal really turned me on in his book Deep Work to the idea of like a walking meditation. Like,
that's
hey, don't just walk, but carve off a problem in your life or a blog post that you want to write. Like not with your camera. Like keep it in your head. Like, you know, practice being like, okay, what do I want to say in this blog post? What are the main 3 points? You know, like, and I'll come back from a 90-minute walk and be like, I've got the whole blog post done, ready. All I need to do is bang it out now. You know, and so big shout out to Cal for like turning me on, because I walk a lot, but I was walking in a very passive sort of like, oh, I'm just gonna listen to a podcast and drift, like, Cal really got me to like no, walk, but laser in, bring yourself in, like focus in on something.
Now look, walking and just zoned out, for a guy like you or a guy like me, that's a big step. That's a huge step, because we're so used to like being at the computer, and even though you're working 90 and only actually putting in 30, or putting in 90 but only getting 30 of productivity out of it, that break, that walk, still productive. And the next level of that is be intentional, be laser focused. I always equate it to a water jet. A water jet at, let's say it's 3,000 PSI will slice through steel, but at 2,500 PSI, it's a fucking mess. It's a mess. But when you focus that energy and attention, right? You go from a puddle of water, like a bucket of water, which is just there, to channeling it into pressure, to channeling it into a funnel. Yeah. And at the end of that funnel is ultimate concentration and focus. That energy will slice a block of steel wide open with a clean cut when it's focused. That's the same thing with the human mind. Same thing. But you got to stage up to that. You got to break your desk habit and just go for a walk at lunch. Don't go with your buddies and eat cheeseburgers and shit at TGI Fridays. Why anybody eats there, I don't know. My personal problem. But don't do that. Break that habit up, right? Like, break that habit up. Start something that's a little healthier for you. Maybe you bring in a salad to work and you take that 30-minute walk. Don't worry about how great it goes. Just do the activity for a second. You'll build some habits, and then you can start zeroing in, right? Is that right?
Dude, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Let's make sure that we talk about this kid thing, because that's something that you and I share and have in common. And I know it doesn't have to do with life hacks, even though we can probably spin it into a life hack in some capacity. I'm sure.
It's all connected. If we pull one thread long enough, we'll get to everything.
Yes, that's right. So you said something to me about being a father, a new father, right? You have an 18-month-old, 19. Well, listen, you better be real accurate, because by the time
let's get accurate. 17
month real accurate.
Today is May 20th.
When this comes out, though, she'll be 18, and Carrie's going to listen and be like, "You should have done the math."
You got to do the math. Yeah, no, I mean, we had you asked me before the podcast, like, hey, like, what's on your mind? And you know, especially being Men on Purpose podcast and like the specific like topic of this podcast, I think, you know, one of my friends really saved my butt as a new father. And he saved my butt because like about 3 months in, when I was really secretly struggling with like, why am I not connecting with my daughter? Why am I not connecting with being a father? I've always been a softie, I assumed, and most people assumed about me, that I would take to fatherhood like a fish in water. And I was just flopping around, like not connecting, not connecting to her, not connecting to the role. And one of my friends saved my butt by simply telling me, hey, dude, it's okay if it takes you to the like 2 years old to connect to them and to connect to the role. And it saved me because like this guy had a great relationship with his daughter, and it made me feel like, oh, okay, it's not like it's over. It's, you know, like it's not like I missed something. Like it's okay to take a while to edge into it. And I think part of the reason that came up and I mentioned that is I think it's the kind of message that maybe other people need to hear, especially first-time fathers, to hear this, like, you know, it's okay. Like, keep trying. I'm not giving you a pass to like not try, right?
No,
you know, but But it's okay to try and not judge yourself or despair or think what's wrong with me or like what's wrong with them. Worse, like what's wrong with my wife and my daughter? Why aren't they connecting to me? Like it's okay for this thing to take something on the order of 1.5 to 2 years to really somewhere in there, it just clicks in.
Yeah, but think about the logic. Forget about the emotion, because the emotion's running nuts, man. You have this new life that you've created in a way, you've created, and it's a new job. However, at the same time, your emotions are running. You're saying something about yourself. You're saying something to yourself. I got to do this. This is my new job. But every new job takes time. You just don't have that type of emotional connection in most new jobs. I mean, it took me a good 18 months to 24 months with my daughter, who's 5.5 now. And like, if you look at me on Facebook, people will ask me, they're like, dude, how are you such a great, purposeful, present dad? And I'll say, because I wasn't one.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't one. And I learned this. I hacked this thing. Like, I'm running a bunch of different businesses, and I'm trying to, maintain and grow a relationship with my wife and myself, and run a coaching business where I help others grow a relationship with themselves and work on themselves. And when my daughter came along, it was like, well, now what do I do? And like I was saying to you, all I kept thinking was, is this it? Like this, all these guys who the 3 months in, and you see a picture or you see this video, or they tell you like, oh my God, it's my entire life. Oh my God. I'm like, fuck you. No way, man. No way. Because all the guys that I'm talking to who are honest about it, seriously, that was my attitude. Because I'm like, nah, man, I'm an emotional guy. I'm emotionally connected. I'm in touch with my feelings. Why can't I feel what I'm supposed to feel?
That was the worst. Like I think I'd created an expectation that I was going to nail it out of the gate, or even like I gave myself like 3 months, and even after 3 months, and I started to feel like there was I call it the inner circle. Like my wife, like took to the role immediately. The baby took to her. She took to the baby. Like there was an inner circle where things were working. I just wasn't in it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I was on the outer circle, sort of like.
Though.
Yeah, I mean,
we
could give it a bunch of reasons. It just made me despair, right? Like I just felt like the baby wasn't connecting to me. Didn't want to be, didn't want to like hang out with me, lay with me, be held by me, be fed by me. Just only wanted to be with the mother, And then and then even Carrie, like even in the role with her, like it felt like Carrie was always 2 steps ahead, and I was 2 steps behind of like what needed to happen. Of course, in the first year, things change so fast, right? Like what they need in the first 3 months and the rhythms in the first 3 months are different than, like when they're 6 or 9 months, right? And so like it felt like just when I was getting to the point where I had the hang of anything, then it changed and I like sort of fell off the wagon again. And I say this all just to say that maybe there's somebody out there listening right now that just needs to hear that it's like, dude, hang on, like keep trying, right? Like, and hang on, keep trying, and it will click. It like, especially around that, you can look forward to that 1.5 to 2 year mark. For me, it was like things really started to warm up in a positive way for me once she turned a year. But gosh, when she like that 1.5 was just a sweet spot, and now she's like, she's asking for me. When the other day she hurt herself and came to me instead of to the mom, and I was like, yeah. Like what a win, so it gets better. That's all. I'm sending a message in bottle to somebody out there.
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, we are going to get feedback on that. Like, thank you for saying that, because I feel like such an asshole. There's some guy out there who's like, man, why am I not connected? Like, I read a really great book, and I forget the author. It's called the Happiness Hypothesis. And he talks in there about the bond between mother and child, and the non-bond between dad and child, because that's not how the universe, God, the earth, it's not how they created it. The mother and child have to bond. They have to. If the mother's there, they have to bond. That's crucial for development, brain development, whatever. And I read that because I wanted to really understand, why am I not feeling this thing? Like, I get it. There's a cute baby in my house, and I'm hugging and changing diapers. I'm kissing the baby, and I'm like, cool. What do you do with this thing? Well, the mom has a job to feed the baby, care for the baby, be with the baby, bond with the baby. But the father, in my opinion, in my experience, I didn't feel like I had a role. I felt like I had a role as a provider. So when my daughter was born 5.5 years ago, I stepped in harder into business and harder into partying and making myself happy on the outside, because I technically, I'm not saying lost my wife, but my wife didn't need me at that point. My wife needed to be with my daughter. Yeah. My daughter needed my wife. They didn't need me. And then my trauma kicked in, and I was like, fuck, I guess my dad was right. I am just a provider. So I'll just keep bringing home bigger checks, and maybe I'll get that love, right? That's how my trauma worked. And then my daughter was very smart. She advanced very quickly, and I remember like maybe a year old, like she was already saying dad, dad. She was saying like 20 words, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling this now. She's coming to me, hugging my leg. I remember the first time she hugged me, where I didn't have to put her little arms around me. She hugged me, and I will feel that squeeze, that pressure around my neck. I will feel that to the day I die. That's when it clicked for me, and we bonded. Yes. And I was like, cool. But then after that first year, my wife said to me, and I tell this story a lot, I want a divorce. And I was like, what? I've been in personal development. What are you talking about? I read 65 books this year. I made $1 million. What are you nuts? I'm working on myself. She goes, yeah, well, it's not working here.
It's not working.
So disconnected and distant. Right. You've been disconnected, distant, only focused on business and going out and partying with your friends. Like, we need you here. And I said, well, look, the truth be told, like, I'm miserable. I really hate my life. I hate myself. I hate my life. I hate selling real estate, and I love the clients and I love the money. And I'll be honest with that now that I'm out of their business, but coaching is very different for me. That's my passion, my mission. I found my passion through that mission. But what she said to me, I started to get emotional. It's the first time I really ever showed emotion to my wife, and I kind of broke myself down, and I let it happen, and I said, what the fuck do I do? I've been doing therapy and work and personal development exercises and masterminds and all this shit. Like, what else do I do? What do I do? And she just looked at me and she said, are you really the model of a man that you want your daughter to attract into her life one day? And I fucking lost it, dude. It's like a bone broke inside my rib cage and hit my heart. And I was like, I'm not. I hate my life. I hate myself. And she was like, then you need to work on that, because your daughter, she goes, forget about me. You can trade me in for the next model, but you can't trade her and she can't trade you.
Yeah.
So she said, basically, you can trade me in, but you can't trade her in. She can't trade you in. You're her dad. And I took that really seriously. And I started to work on me. I started to work on who I was as a person, not what I did for a living, not what justified my value. I started to really find and understand my value inside. That helped my connection get even better with her.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's amazing. You know? I mean,
that helped.
For me, I think what really helped was for me to finally, I had a breakdown moment too. And I just told my wife, I was like, man, I feel like I'm not in the inner circle. So like whatever you can do to, to help me get into the inner circle. And she really respected that and started like creating opportunities for us to all three cuddle together or be together, and I obviously, a lot of guys talk about feeling like a functionary inside, like, especially when that first child is born. It just feels like everything just becomes completely functionary, right? And so, my wife really made an extra special effort to make it feel like we weren't just roommates taking care of like a baby, for us to actually have some loving moments and speak kindly to each other. And like, that kind of stuff made me feel like I was on the inside, because what I saw was this beautiful, just the most tender, loving relationship happening. I wasn't involved in it. It's just like with my wife and another person, and then, yeah, oh my God, jealous. Yes. Like I had lost all of the tenderness and love that I had, but I wasn't involved in this new tender, loving relationship. So I got to give mad props to my wife for recognizing that and creating a space, for me to be welcomed in and get some love and some tenderness back.
Yeah, I love that, man. There's just there's so much you can do from that breakdown. There's so much that has built my life and who I am today from that breakdown. And I credit that breakdown. I love that breakdown. My daughter will find out about it because obviously she's going to listen to this podcast. but who I am for her and for my wife most of the time, I think, according to my wife, most of the time is the purposeful dad and husband that I should be. Then I'm the business guy. Then I'm I'm a model of a man. That's why I have a Men on Purpose. Like, I want to be the model of a man on purpose. Men on purpose make mistakes. We fuck up stuff, but we have to have apologies in there. We have to understand ourselves and know when we should fight for what we believe in, when we should just say, you know what, you're right, I messed up, I'm sorry. And I think that's the biggest thing. But you got to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
don't overcomplicate.
I guess final thought on this thing. My wife and I made I think a really cool agreement at the beginning of a relationship. We agreed that we were not going to coach each other, that if we needed a coach or a therapist, that we would hire one, but that by marrying each other, I'm like her cut man, she's my cut man. We're not there to critique each other, or even if we could see something so obvious, we're not there to coach each other, right? She can get a coach, she can get a therapist, right? I'm just there to support her. I'm in her corner 100% of the time, right? And we also said, we made a promise to each other that we would never stop trying to improve. But we also, in the same breath, said, but we also recognize that it's not always going to be the improvement that the other person wants to see. So, I can see that my wife is constantly working on herself, and she can see that I'm constantly working on myself. It's just never I'm never working on exactly the thing she wants me to be working on. She's never working on exactly the thing, but it all comes out in the wash in the end. It really does. I really believe that.
It does. That's a great point, man. Like, my wife's a really great coach. She's on her coaching journey now, and obviously I have a big coaching business, and I have to remind myself, like, I can't coach her. I'll let her coach me because she's a great accountability partner for me. However, I can't coach her. She doesn't want that. She doesn't listen, and I'm not her coach. I'm her husband. I'm there to support her, and I fail on that a lot more than I succeed. I'm going to be honest. I fail on that a lot more than I succeed. However, what I said on last podcast with Paul Shepard, I said, look, what we intentionally do is we stress test our relationship daily, to make sure that when stuff happens, that it's not a freight train going over a bike bridge. It's a freight train going over a freight train bridge that's just a little shaky, but we're not going to lose it, and the thing's not going to plummet 400 feet into the water and everybody dies. Like, it's going to be okay. We stress test the relationship. I learned that from a friend of mine, a relationship coach named Brendan Watt. I had him on the podcast a long time ago. And he said, got to stress test your relationship, number one piece of advice. And I followed it, man. I stuck to it. And we built plans around stress testing because we stress test communication. We stress test sharing. We stress test what we want from each other, what we want from life, our visions, our goals, money, contribution. All that's laid out. We actually do that on our date nights first about our life. We cast our life vision and plan every week. And then our date night is clear. No phones, no kids, no work. Just us. And that's cool. It's harder with an 18-month-old. But I have a 15-month-old upstairs too now. And guess what, dude? I still wasn't connected to him until month 9.
Yep.
Even though I had one before. I was a different dad, a different guy. I was a different, very, very present dad. But you know what? My son was born. Pandemic hit last February. And I bought this podcast, and I gas pedaled down in my coaching business, and I started to wrap my real estate business. And I said to my wife, I need time. And she goes, good, take it. Sleep in the guest room, do your thing, whatever you need to do. I support you. And she did, and for like 6 months. I slept in the guest room and worked on the podcast and worked on the coaching business, worked on myself, and was always present, went for walks every day with my daughter and dinners every night. But I had to make some sacrifices, and it helped me grow into where it wasn't 18 months, it was 8 months. And then my son, Price, I was just immediately involved with this kid.
That's awesome.
And that was cool.
Well, thank you for letting me take a second and get that off my chest. I don't know why. It just felt like that was something that needed to be said today.
Dude, somebody got something out of that. And let's wrap on that note. It's probably
Dude, cut whatever you want for this. I just had a blast, man.
But yeah, man. No, this straight through, dude. Everything you said is going to be valuable to the people. I don't care that my mic cut out. I don't care that I have technical problems. We keep pushing, man. We keep going. So, Demir, dude, thank you. To tell everybody where they can find you, Dude, you have free resources, and I'll tell everybody in the intro, but just tell everybody again where they can find you and get.
Yeah. So I mean, the easiest way to get to know us a little bit is check us out at lifehackmethod.com. That's lifehackmethod.com. We've got a ton of free resources that you can download, and it connects you to videos we have on YouTube. And so, we recognize that we have a sort of helpful marketing paradigm that we operate with, which is, we put out a lot of free content out there. So, please avail yourself of all the free content that we have around how to get more organized and how to get some freedom in your life and get some sanity. And even if you never work with us, but just get one thing from one of our free resources, like that would make me super, super happy. You can also, one of our most popular things that we put out is our Winning the Week webinar, where I show people how to win their week every single week by pre-planning the week in 30 minutes or less in the right way. It's just, it really is a big hit for us. People love that webinar. So why don't I send a link to you afterwards, Ian? Maybe you could put it in the show notes and people can check that out. Because I can tell you right now that, people ask me all the time, Ian, like, okay, I'm busy. I can't absorb everything you're going to teach me, Demir, but what's the one thing I can do, the smallest thing to get the biggest result in my productivity? And I always say the same thing. You've got to plan your week every single week ahead of time. And we show you how to do that in 30 minutes or less. So if that's something that sounds interesting, people can do that. And that's also free.
Love that, man. Absolutely love that. This has been, it's been a super treat. I know the audience is going to get a ton out of it. I'm very grateful for your time. And one day we're going to meet in person. When
Dude,
I come down to
we've got
Colombia.
overflow space. Don't threaten. I'll take you up on it. Come on down here.
No, bro, I'm the kind of guy that if I ask you to do the dishes and you say like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, I don't say, oh no, don't worry about it. Your ass is doing dishes with me. So I'm serious. I'd love to come down and hang out with you.
I'll tell you that the problem with Medellin is it's hard getting people to visit you here, but it's even harder to get them to leave. That's Medellin for you. Yes, I love that, man. Well, you pencil me in. I'm moving to LA in about 6 weeks. I'll be a little bit closer. Well, I don't know, maybe a little bit closer. Yeah, dude, this has been great. So thank you, and everybody check out lifehackmethod.com. Yeah, lifehackmethod.com.
Got it. Lifehackmethod.com. Demir Bentley.
Dude, what a pleasure. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks again for listening to the Men on Purpose podcast, where our mission is to educate, elevate, and activate every man to truly live their best, most fulfilling life possible. To find out more about the podcast, our guests, or becoming a man on purpose, visit menonpurposepodcast.com and choose your most purposeful path forward.